when somebody says thank you to you.
Rules and regulations during talk. Please turn on your video during talk. The host will mute your audio during the talk until the question and answer session. No questions are allowed during the presentation. The chat box will be enabled 5 minutes before the Q&A session. The share screen feature will be disabled during the session except for the speaker. A very good morning to everyone. Today, our guest speaker is Dr. Annie Lim. Annie Lim is a social venture activist and entrepreneur who loves business startups, enjoy public speaking, training, coaching, and transformational work, adding value to the life of those who she meets. She is playful, creative, and enjoys her life being at peace and joy most of the time and speaking the truth. She is the founder of WE World Network, a global community of joyful, abundance-minded women entrepreneurs with a vision to create world peace through business. She is also founder of Dr. Annie Lim International and the co-founder of Origin of Wisdom, both training companies that support individuals to discover who they truly are and to live a fully self-expressed life. And for your information, Dr. Annie has a PhD in entrepreneurship where her research was published in several notable international academic journals, focusing on growth companies by founding CEOs. She has owned and managed several companies in Malaysia prior to moving to Canada. Her success has been featured on Bloomberg Television and several other mainstream news and media outlets. Annie currently mentors and coaches several women-owned organizations and is an alumni mentor for the Cherry Blair Foundation. She is on the board of Advisors, California Women's Conference. Thank you.
Thank you for the welcome. I realized that the introduction that you had somehow was the older profile that I have. So I'm going to just briefly introduce myself again. My name is Rain. I go by Rain right now. And I'm a mother of 3 kids, since I know most of the people who are attending this talk are parents as well. So I want to make sure that you know that I have 3 kids. I have 2 sons. They, well, both of them are considered adult now. One just turned 18, the other one is 22, and my youngest is a girl. She just turned 11 actually last month. So I have 3 kids, and like Mr. Karthik said, I am an entrepreneur, but right now I actually spend more time traveling around the world doing transformational work under my other company called Origin of Wisdom, where I run the program called Seize Leadership, which I actually run in Malaysia as well. This program is run globally. All right, so that's a little bit about, in addition to what he has shared. And I also have an online show now that I run. It's called RainHeartWisdom Show, okay? So Mr. Jonathan and Ms. Lenora, thank you for having me here, today, and to be on to be speaking to your group of parents. And I'm not sure if you have students here also on the session. And my topic is about how to maintain a positive attitude in hard times. Now, I've been thinking about this topic because Jonathan also reached out, could you talk about this? And we're like, there's so many angles to talk about. I was thinking, okay, which angle do I want to go to? Right? Do I want to talk a bit about the hard times? Do I want to talk mainly about positive attitude? So I'm actually going to mix a blend of both, okay? I'm sure that a lot of you are aware when it comes to talking about positive attitude, the easiest way, or you probably have heard this a lot from a lot of people, they'll be telling you, first of all, well, stay away from negative people, right? Or people who have very negative attitude, okay? So I'm going to start off with that because that is something you already know. So yeah, so do that. So stay away from things that, you know, might create a very negative environment for us, for yourself. For example, if you feel like, you know, watching news, it will actually overwhelm you. You'll feel as you watch more news, you get more stressed out, and you know, you start feeling more negative. Then stop watching news. I actually hardly watch news. I do get my synopsis of what's happening through my LinkedIn account, just a summary of what's going on, but I actually don't dwell myself in reading news or watching news. Also with social media, you might want to be you know, mindful of how much time you're spending on social media, especially right now with the COVID-19. A lot of us are going online a little bit more right now. And as you know, on social media, sometimes you might get, you know, there's a lot of fake news going around as well. And some of those news can be very fearful, right? I have a lot to talk about those news. There are, but I'm not going to draw my time into talking about those, okay? So just be mindful. Even social media itself, you want to be mindful of how much time you're spending, okay? If you are spending time on social media or watching news, I would invite you to be more intentional and more conscious about what you're taking in, right? So if you want to stay positive, I would invite you to take, you know, watch things that are inspiring to you. What are the positive things that are happening in the world, or maybe in your neighborhood, or watch things that, you know, will create more lightness and fun for yourself, right? The other thing as well, you know, I mentioned you don't want to be around negative people, as because negative people will typically drain your energy, which then in return you feel more negative. Then it's very hard to maintain being positive around negative people, right? So I would invite you to then surround yourself with people who are positive. I do this very intentionally. I have a community of individuals, some of them are my graduates that have taken my program, where, you know, I find surrounding myself with like-minded people actually elevates me and makes me feel better about who I am. So it's really important to surround yourself with people who are positive and people who actually supports you, you know, who are encouraging, who are very nourishing to your soul. So be mindful of who are the people you have around you. I'm not sure if you've heard of a lot of successful people say, right? You know, they surround themselves with successful people. That's how it propels them to be successful. So I would invite you to start looking around the people that you hang out with. What kind of people are you hanging around, right? Are you hanging around with people that actually elevates you, or you're hanging around people that actually drags you and drain your energy? So that's the first thing I would invite you to do, is that to stay positive, okay? Is to surround yourself with positive, like-minded people who will elevate you, nourish you, and encourage you, okay? Now, the second thing that I want to share, and this is going to be a bit lengthy, is I want to talk about priorities. So what I mean by priorities, so I will share with you, this is my rule of what I call healthy priorities, okay? And my rules are, who is your number one priority? It's you. You're number one, okay? Who is after you? It's your partner. So if you are in a relationship, you're in a marriage, your partner will be your second priority. Then subsequently would be your family or your career. So it really depends. That I typically let people choose. Like for me, my family is really important because family is one of my top values. So that would be my next priority, and then subsequently my career, then my friends. Now, many years ago, I used to put my kids as my first priority, okay? And so, you know, I'll do everything for my kids, like literally anything they need. You know, growing up, I thought that that's the right thing to do. As a mom, my role is to meet all the needs of my kids, and you know, it's to sacrifice myself. So I kind of learned that growing up. So I thought that's the right way to be a mom, right? But what I've learned over the years, especially in the work that I do in transformational work, that doesn't work at all, okay? Because what would happen is eventually I remember those days where I will do so much for them. And there are days that I get really exhausted and tired. And then when I feel that they don't appreciate, even though they actually appreciate me, but because I'm tired and exhausted and easily triggered, and I get stressed out even more easily. And I thought that they don't appreciate me, I will get resentful. And then, that adds on to my stress. And I started to become more negative. And then it triggers me. And then I wouldn't be so kind to my kids, right? So I realized that doesn't work. So it's really important as parents to, especially moms, I know moms like to sacrifice themselves a lot. It's very important to put yourself first. I use an analogy of, how on the airplane where the oxygen mask, it's important to put oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your kids. The same thing, right? It's important for you to, fill up your own tank, right? If you fill up your own energy tank, your love tank, right? So if you're running on empty, just think of your car. If your car is running empty, it can't really function. You can't go anywhere. Same thing, right? If you're not filling out your own tank, you're not able to be with your kid. You cannot be fully present with them. You cannot be with them positively too, right? Because it impacts you. So first of all is to put yourself first. I know for parents or mom, it's really a difficult thing to comprehend. I remember when I first was told about this, I'm like, what? No, that's not the right thing to do. I cannot put myself first. What do you mean? Especially I know Asians, right? No, my kids has to be number one. That's why Asian parents, we send kids to school. It's very different. I'm in Canada right now, it's a bit different, but I know in Asia, parents shuffle their kids to, they drive their kids to school. Like they really dote around their kids, right? A lot. I used to do that a lot too. But the key is really, putting yourself first. And like I said, important is because so that you need to fill up your tank. So in order to maintain a positive attitude, that's the first place I would invite you to consider. Okay. So what are things that you want to look at putting yourself first? First of all, make sure that you are getting enough rest. Now, how many of you know if you don't get rested enough, you get cranky? Now, I'm one of them, okay? I would get cranky when I'm tired. I don't get well rested. I get cranky. And guess what? When I'm cranky, it's easier to be more negative, easier to be triggered emotionally. And then there's an impact on me and the people around me and my kids as well, right? So that's why it's important to take care of yourself. So make sure you get well rested. If you're someone who needs, let's say, 8 hours sleep, and you're aware that you need 8 hours sleep, make it, a point in your life to look at that. Like, I know I need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right? So I'm consciously, some of us don't, some of us need 6, and that's okay. So just know where you're at. The other things is, I also have learned through the work that I do, so this is relating to how you're feeling, okay? Some people that I know, they need to exercise, exercise, and exercise is really important, right? So exercise is also good for taking care of yourself. And I know for some people, they need to move their energy in order to let go of some of the overwhelming energy they're feeling. So exercise is also an important thing to look into. Because the more, let's say you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling stressed, right? And if you're someone that exercise, if you run, or you, like my husband, he likes martial arts, he does that, he feels better. So, be mindful. You could do that, and therefore allowing yourself to release some of this overwhelming energy, then you can maintain your positivity, okay? And then the other thing, of course, is nutrition. I'm not going to go into detail of nutrition, but I want you to know that nutrition and water affects our body chemically. Because if chemically our body is imbalanced, it affects our hormones and all that, it does affect our emotion and our ability to focus and our ability to actually take on more tasks, and therefore to maintain a more positive attitude. So I will also encourage you to look into nutrition as well. I'm not going to go into detail of that, but this is something that I would invite you to look into. Now, so I want to talk about to maintain positive attitude. It's harder when you are overwhelmed, when you're stressed, right? Because when you're in a stressful environment, you are, you're bombarded with maybe too many things to do, or your mind is thinking about, okay, in the future, you're worried about what might happen, especially with COVID right now. A lot of us has a lot more fear going on. All this emotion adds on to your stress, and you might overwhelm you, right? So the next thing is when you're overwhelmed, it's harder to maintain a positive attitude. So I would encourage you, one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients is I invite them to look at what I call the overwhelm stress loop, okay? So it's kind of like your stress loop. Learn to identify your stress loop. We all have a stress loop. So what I mean by that is, I'll share with you mine. I'm grateful that I've broken a lot of my stress loops, so I don't really have one now. But what I used to do in the past is I'll notice that I have a tendency to work until a point I'll get really exhausted and tired and burnt out, right? And when I get to exhausted, tired, and burnt out, I will go into this place where there's no point of doing anything. Like I kind of just, I don't want to do anything. I can't do this anymore. Everything doesn't matter. What's the point? I'm doing all these things, right? So I'll go into that place. And after that, what I'll do is I'll stay there for a while. Then, I'll seek support from my friend and slowly come out of it. But then guess what? Once I'm out of it, I started feeling good. I'll start working again. And then I'll get to a point of burnout. So this is just a very short and simple overview. Of course, your cycle might be more in depth, right? And so once I identify my cycle, what I've learned to do is I started breaking them. I started breaking my cycle so that I don't get to a place of overwhelmed and stressed up. And therefore, then, I can still maintain how I feel. So for example, if I notice I'm working a lot, I'm starting to pay attention to myself, my body, or what I do is I intentionally now will put in time where, okay, every week, my husband and I love to watch movies. So we'll make sure Friday night, it's movie night, right? I'll make sure every day I have at least now 15 to 30 minutes of my time. For example, my time means I could be reading, I could be meditating, I could be dancing, I could be singing, so that I do not move through the overwhelm cycle, okay? So another example I'll give you, if I get to a point of overwhelm, let's say burnout. In the past, I really just get secluded and started hiding myself. I don't know how to deal with it. But now, if I start noticing I do get to that point, if I do get to that burnout point, what I do now is I put people around me to support me and nourish me. So one of the person, of course, is my husband, right? Those are the time when I feel burnout, I reach out to him and say, you know what? I need to actually just took 2 weeks off, by the way. 1 full week off last week because I said, I didn't want to work because I started feeling I was getting there. And I started telling my entire team that I wasn't going to work for the whole week. So that allows me to still nourish myself, take care of me, and not get to that stage. Okay. So it's really important for you to start identifying what is your pattern. If every one of us has that pattern, and start putting different little things around to break that pattern of yours. Okay. So some of the examples I've shared with you. And if you don't remember your pattern, I will encourage you to write it down. Typically, it is a circle. You write it down and post it somewhere to remind yourself, oh, you know what? I'm getting to, if you look at that reminder, like, okay, I'm heading to this burnout stage. I better pull back, better do something that nourishes my soul, nourishes me, so that I don't get to that phase. Like I said, if we allow ourselves to get ourselves overwhelmed, then it's not easy for us to maintain a positive attitude, right? And I thought this is important to share because I don't want to just talk about, the usual stuff. I want to give you some nuggets that you could use, okay? So be mindful of your, stress loop, like what's your stress cycle, okay? Your overwhelm cycle. The other thing is, as parents, I think it's and teachers, I know there's some teachers here too, and kids, of course. The other thing that I've learned over the years to maintain a positive attitude is to play. I know, it's play. If you notice, when kids play, they're happy, they're fun, they are connected, right? But as an adult, as we grow up, somehow we have this idea playing is only appropriate for certain time. Like, oh, okay, I've planned out this time is for my hobby. Now I can go play my sports, or now I can go do my cooking or my dancing. But we don't allow ourselves to do that freely. And play, scientifically, there are research, you can go online and look at it, actually creates all the good hormones for you, okay? And which, again, nourishes your body, which then allows you to stay and maintain being positive, because it also supports you in being healthy as well, playing. So I would really encourage you, parents, do not stop yourself from playing. You can play at any time. It doesn't mean you have to play at a certain time. You have 24 hours a day. Okay, if you sleep 8 hours, you're 16 hours. When you're doing work, even right now, doing this, it's play for me, right? So I want to encourage you to, when you have moments with your kids, play. When moments with yourself, turn on the music and start dancing. If dancing is what you love to do, and play. Or, there are moments in between when you're working, moms, right? You love some certain song, turn on the music and just sing along and just play, okay? So play is really important. It supports you in maintaining a positive attitude. It gives you energy so that you can stay positive, okay? So I really encourage you to play. Playing as well means doing things that you enjoy, right? So I said a couple of things already. So be mindful. Don't just think about playing as, sports or playing toys with your kids. Of course, playing toys is great too. I love to play water guns with my kids, by the way. We play water guns fight. We play, that's one of kind of our, yearly thing like I get to do with my kids during summer here. But also play encompasses things that brings you joy, right? Maybe if, let's say, you love acting, right? Improv. What else is play? Like I said, cooking. So all those are considered play. Okay, so make sure you nourish yourself and spend some time doing what that brings you joy and you're passionate about. Okay. The other thing, the next part to this, maintaining a positive attitude, is to be of service. I don't know how many of you realize when you're contributing to people, you actually feels good, right? When you do random acts of kindness, you actually feel good. And that's a great way to maintain positive attitude. It's doing random acts of kindness for people around you. It doesn't have to be big, it can be small, right? Recently in Canada, as a group of us, one of us in the group came up with this idea called the I've Got Your Backpack operation. So basically the goal was to put in essential items in a backpack and give it to people who are on the street, right? And again, I know every time when we do good for someone, and it doesn't mean it has to be strangers. It can be anyone at home, right? It can be even for yourself, as long as you're doing something of service, it actually supports you in feeling better and feeling good and maintaining your positive attitude. Okay, so I really encourage you to look into that as well, being of service. So that leads me to gratitude. Gratitude is really important. I share this in my class specifically. I said we share it in flip charts. So one of the flip charts that we have is called gratitude gives you access to love and abundance. Okay, so what I mean by that, if you just take a moment right now and think about what you're grateful for, even right now. I'm grateful for being on this call with you. I'm grateful for being invited to be on this call with you. I'm grateful just being alive. I'm grateful I have a voice to share with you. I'm grateful I have a family. I'm grateful I have a roof over me. If you go through and do that over and over again, just for a brief, even a minute to 5 minutes, you will see your heart starts opening up. And when your heart starts opening up, you will feel so much better and more positive about the outlook of what's happening, right? So I would encourage you really, practice gratitude. It's a great way to maintain positive attitude, especially during difficult times. I know during challenging times, our mind wants to think about all the stuff that's happening, right? But, I would encourage you to, during those times, even let's say if there's a challenging moment, in my experience, I'm grateful that that's happening, because I know there is lessons that I'm getting from this experience. I know there's a gift in those lessons that I'm getting from these experiences. So I really encourage you to practice gratitude. If you can practice, in the morning when you wake up, right? That's one thing that I do early in the morning. That's part of my routine, which I'll be talking about in a short while. My routine, part of my routine in the morning is gratitude. What I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the amazing bed I get to sleep on. Like, how great is that? Some people don't even have that, right? And in the evening as well, before you go to sleep, just practice, gratitude. I can assure you, when you practice gratitude before you go to sleep, you'll sleep way better than going with all the stress and all the anxiety and all that stuff. And when you go to sleep, okay? So, end the day with gratitude. Just what are you grateful for this whole day? I'm grateful I got to see my friend. I had a chance to go out, and right now you all get to go out to the restaurants, right? So, be grateful for all these things. And like I said, you will have a much more peaceful and restful sleep, okay? So gratitude. And the next thing I want to share is practice being present. Okay, practice being in the now. I know our mind constantly, because part of the mind's job is to protect us, right? That's why we have this thing called fear. Fear is not a bad thing. Actually, to me, fear is here to teach us, okay? Of course, when fear goes into overdrive, is where it holds us back and keeps us stuck. But fear is actually here to protect us. Imagine if you have no fear, if you have no fear of fire, a kid would just put their hand in the fire and get their hands burned, right? So it's meant to protect us, right? But of course, when it goes overdrive, it doesn't support us. However, because the mind's goal is to protect us, one of the things it does sometimes, it wants to think about the future, right? Okay, what if this is going to happen? What if that's going to happen? What if I go out and do this, this is going to happen? And then you get really anxious and worry, and that's how you get stressed out. But truly, you can't really control what's going to happen in the future, right? Because you only have now, which is the present. Okay, and I get that. So sometimes the mind wants to think about the past, right? Because that's, it lingers in the past, and some of us, we get stuck in those stories and those events that happen for too long. That's actually a specific area that I work with people on. Then they get stuck in their life, and what will happen is, you get overwhelmed by regrets or disappointments or hurt, and it drains your energy. And it's really hard to maintain, because if you think about all the past regrets or mistakes that you have made, maybe, it takes a lot of your current energy away from you, right? It doesn't support you. And again, the past had happened. I'm not saying that whatever happened didn't happen. But one thing I know for sure, you cannot go back to that time to undo. But you can undo it in this time, which is in the present. It's in this time you can, look at what happened in the past and accept and forgive and let go, right? So we truly only have the present. So one of the great practices that I've learned over time is to be in the present. And because just knowing that being in the present, and the present is a gift, right? Being in the present allows me to cherish my time that I have. Every moment that I have, every moment that I have with my kids, every moment I have with myself, every moment I have with my parents, my husband, with my peers, right? With whatever I'm doing. And because I cherish those moments, like I said, it's easier for me to maintain a more positive attitude than being dragged down by what had happened in my past, or worry about what's going to be coming in the future. Like I said, you can't really control. You can do your best, right? You can do your best to plan, but I don't know how many of you, my life has never gone exactly the way I planned. the way how I want it. I want to say this carefully. I have had dreams that I've achieved, but the way I got there is not the exact plan how I got there. Okay, so practice, embracing the present. That will support you in maintaining your positive attitude. All right, and so how can you be in the present? A couple ways that can support you is breath. Breathing. Sometimes we forget to breathe. And isn't it ironic? Breath is what maintains us to be alive, right? So if you just take a moment right now and just breathe and just focus on your breath, and just even focus on your breath and know that breath is a gift, because the breath gives you life. The breath is a present, and every breath you take, therefore you are here. And imagine if you just focus on your breath right now, you're not thinking of your past, or you're thinking about your future. You're just here. So breath is a very simple way to stay in your present. I did a video recently. I talk about ways to, let's say if you're feeling overwhelmed, breath is one way that you can release some of these overwhelming energies, right? Or emotions that you're feeling. So, what you could do is take deep breath. Like deep breath means down into your abdomen. And when you let go of that breath, I want you to sigh. And you can practice with me if you want. I know you're on mute, but just even take a moment. If you take a deep breath, and when you let go everything that you're feeling burdened or heavy or overwhelming. And as you let go, make a sigh. I don't know if you feel it. I'm already feeling that so much has been released and let go. As simple as that. And the more you do that, you're actually in the present, right? So breath is a great way to keep you in the present so that you can maintain and just stay here and not allow your mind to take you to the past or the future, which, like I said, either you get anxious about it or you might feel regret, okay? The next thing is be with nature if you want to be present. Nature is a quick way to bring you back to present. I love it. I love every day I'll go outside. Right now it's summer, so I can go out. It's not winter over in Canada right now. I love to just sit at our backyard and just look at the grass. Out front we have a tree. My husband named him Ben. So I love to have a look at Ben every day and see how he's doing, right? Nature alone really calms us down. I don't know how many of you like to see sunrise and sunset, or you look at waterfalls and you look at beautiful mountains, you just feel good, right? Naturally, because nature is that way, right? And so nature is a great way for you to just allow yourself to just be present, okay? So I would really encourage you to be with nature. And some of you might practice meditation. That also will support you. Again, meditation, I'm not really good at sitting meditation, honestly. I've practiced that. It doesn't work for me. For me, it works better with movement meditation. I like to move and just, be present, focus on my breath. So, I would encourage you, if sitting doesn't work for you, then do the kind of meditation that works for you. Like my husband, he likes martial art. That's his meditation. Right? For him, he has to move in his martial art form, right? For me, sometimes I meditate by holding the tree. I just be around the tree and just feel the energy. I love the energy, okay? I don't know if you believe this, I do. I know they take a lot of energies from us that doesn't serve us. So trees and plants are really powerful healers, all right? So that's being in present. I have two more things to share in regards to this part. The other one is, I just want to share briefly about emotion. So I know when we're overwhelmed, like I said earlier, you could get triggered easily, right? So you might have, you might get upset quicker, or you might get angry and frustrated quicker, right? Parents, if that happens, I want to share with you, that, it's important for you to express them in healthy ways. Okay. So I've learned, and I wish I've learned this during my younger days. It would have helped me a lot. Emotion is just energy in motion. Basically, it's just energy who's wanting to move. If you look at kids play in a playground, they can get mad at each other. The next minute, they'll be happy and running around and play. No issue, because they have already expressed how they feel. The next thing, like, okay, let's play, let's go, right? They don't hop on it. They don't carry their frustrated around. But you know what adults do? We do that a lot. We carry that everywhere we go. And then we're wondering why we're tired and exhausted, because we're holding to all this energy, right? So, it's important to know that this is just energy in motion. You just want to move those out in motion and out from your body, right? So important to express your emotion in healthy ways. Okay, so parents, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed and stressed, I would like to invite you to be mindful. You're starting to feel like, okay, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Okay, what are some healthy ways you can express your frustration that doesn't impact people around you? I'll share with you some of mine. I like to scream or sing. One of the things that I do. So my kids at home, my kids, they have permission to express themselves healthily, right? Their emotions healthily. So downstairs in my basement, we have a punching bag. So everyone has permission to go down and punch the bag when they're frustrated or angry, right? Or they can go to the room and scream to their pillow and just scream all their emotions out, right? Or if you're sad, just allow yourself to cry. Like some days overwhelming, it can be exhausting. And I remember days that I used to cry in the bathrooms too, right? So, and it's okay. Emotions, there are no good emotions, wrong emotions. They're just emotions. Okay, so it's important for us to allow ourselves to feel those emotions in healthy ways. Because if we don't, what's going to happen is, if we keep piling them up and suppressing, guess what? We will, I don't know if you've experienced this. I've experienced this years ago, where I will explode, and the impact on people around me, it's not very pretty. Okay, and then I have to deal with it after, which is even not prettier. So, it's important to do that. And I would encourage you to even encourage your children, to express their emotion. Okay. So once you do that, you realize again, you're not building up, then you don't feel overwhelmed. And therefore, as long as you allow yourself to release and let go, it's easier to be in a more positive and energetic space. Okay. The last thing I want to share is, parents, do what you can. Don't do what you have to, or let go of expectations, right? I should be this way. I have to do this. Do what you can. In many ways, we are human beings. I know, maybe growing up, we were given a lot of different expectations. We were told you should be this way, you have to be this way. But I've learned that, what? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to let go of expectations and just do what you can. And a part of this is, when I say do what you can, also, in order to support you to manage being overwhelmed, I would encourage you to create routines. I talked about my routines as well, right? So, mornings, I have my rituals. I will pray in the morning. I will do my gratitudes. Then I'll spend some time with myself, right? And then I allocate certain times for work, certain time throughout the day for play, certain time for my kids. Of course, now it's COVID, so we cook a little bit more. So cooking time as well. And then rest time, right? So, it's important for you to create routines, because routine allow you to be in a more structured way. And our mind likes actually routine. In that way, it's also supported so that you don't get stressed and overwhelmed. Well, by having routine, it helps you to maintain, again, that positive environment and space for yourself. Okay, so so do what you can. Like I said, don't don't do things that you think you should do, or you have to. Okay, do what you can, and it's okay. It's okay. You know, truly, if you look at it, we have nowhere really to go. It's just really embracing the journey anyway, right? All right. So 2 more last thing, and I'm about to wrap up. And I know it's almost time. One thing that I was thinking about, because we're I know Malaysia now, you've opened up. Here, we're still kind of a little bit of a lockdown. We're not fully open up yet in Toronto, Canada. So one of the things that I was thinking about too is because of the situation that we are in right now, you know, I think it's important for us to be authentic and real with our kids. One thing to practice, you know, I don't believe in hiding things from I'm not saying to burden your kids with all your problems. That's not what I'm saying. You know, I'm saying that it's okay to be real. It's okay to be real and say, you know what, mommy's really tired today. I'm really exhausted today. I really need your support. You know, there are days I ask my sons, could you make dinner? I really, I need time out. You know, mommy needs some time for myself. Can both of you make dinner? It's a great opportunity, one, to train the kids to understand what it takes, right, to be a parent. You know, they get to see you being real, what you go through. By doing that, actually allows them to understand you better. You actually will have better relationship with them. But in addition, also allows them to kind of understand what it takes, right? And in addition, you're actually supporting and training them to be independent. I would use that word. Okay, depending where your kids are, in what age group. Like my 11-year-old, you know, I'll give her a different task. My older ones, I give them different tasks to support me. Yet, you know, we do train people around us. You know, what I mean by that, you know, how people behave around us is how we've trained them to be. I'll give you an example. Years ago, before I started doing personal transformational work, my kids dare not speak up to me. Okay, reasons because I've trained them, because if they speak up, you know, I'm very controlling. I won't allow them to speak up. It's mommy says or nothing. No one else can say anything. You know, I'm the authority and that's it. Okay, so when they were younger, they attempted, and like, okay, it's not working, right? So I've trained my kids not to speak up, and actually that doesn't help my kids at all. I want them to speak up. I want to know what they're thinking about. I want to know what's important to them. But that affected my relationship with them. As I started doing work, I realized that was some of the things that I was doing to my kids. I corrected myself, right? And I started, myself being more open. I started being more open to listening to them, giving them more opportunities to talk to me. And then they started realizing, oh, okay, it's not that scary anymore. She is listening. She's not shutting me down. And it started changing their behavior around me. Now, my relationship with my kids are I'm grateful. You know, they share with me anything that goes on for them. Even my 11 years old, if she's having trouble with friends or whatnot, she shares with me what goes on with her, and my boys too, so I'm grateful, right? So we train the people around us to behave a certain way. So I encourage you to use this opportunity, right, to be honest and authentic. And also then you get to actually, I don't like to use the word train your kids, but allows your kids to see, right, what's going on for you. And also then therefore they learn to be more independent. Okay, because ultimately as parents, what do we want? We want them to be independent, happy, healthy adults, right? So why not take this opportunity to teach them as well? Okay, the last thing I want to share is, in order to maintain positive attitude in hard times, for me, it really comes to your willingness to do personal development work. I really want to share that, because I've been doing it for, how long have I been doing? 14 years already, 15 years. Deep personal development work. I started learning about personal development maybe 20 years ago, but I started doing deep work maybe 15 years ago. And I noticed that because I started doing personal development, that's how my relationship with my children started shifting. I started letting go some of the ways I was doing things because I realized it wasn't supporting them. And so, I would really encourage you parents, if you want to support your kids, and and also to maintain a positive attitude. And again, kids learn from us, you know. Our kids model us a lot. They imitate us a lot. It's not what you say, it's they see what you do and they do, right? So, you know, if you want to teach them, the best way is to teach them through how you are. And so that's what I've learned. I've learned is, you know, when I started to know myself better, what worked for me and what doesn't work, I let go of those things that didn't work for me and continue to nourish things that work. I noticed my kids started learning those things too. Like I said, I started being more open to listening to my kids. I noticed that they also started listening to more to what I have to say, right? And that's why the communication started opening. But it all started with personal development work. And the key is, you know, I would just leave you with two things. It starts with awareness, like you know, being aware about yourself. Like just like let's go back to the stress loop, right? You know, being aware, what's your cycle? It starts with awareness, right? Learning to being aware of yourself, what works and what doesn't. And then the next thing is to be willing to do something different about it. Because if you do the same thing over and over and over again, you get the same results. You will never get the different results, right? And that's why they call that, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different result is insanity. You can't. It's only when you do something different, you can only create different results, right? But you can't do something different until you're aware what you're doing is working or not working. Right? Those that you're not working, when you're aware, it's like, oh, okay, now I better change that because that's not working. So parents, you know, and for me, that's what I found out. I found out when I started working on myself, I started letting go of a lot of the shoulds, a lot of the has. I started letting go of a lot of my old belief systems that didn't work for me. Belief system that as a mom, I need to sacrifice myself, right? I started letting go of some of my old traumas that happened to me that actually affected my self-worth, my self-esteem. I became more confident. All that contributed in my ability now to stay positive. I can tell you, I can say 95% of the time I feel peace and calm and joy. I wouldn't be able to say that 15 years ago. Maybe about 10 years ago, about 7 years ago, I was about at 80%. And as I continue to do my work, I can say now about 95%, which I'm really happy. I wouldn't say 100% because we are here partially to learn too, right? So there are times that will be more challenging. But the tools that you learn from personal development will get you through it, okay? So that's the last thing I would like to leave you with. And hopefully some of the tips that I've shared with you, I know I shared quite a fair bit and just touching them, but I'm happy if you have any question around all the different tips that I've shared with you. And I'm going to hand it over to, is it Mr. Kartik?
No, I think I'll take over, if you don't mind, Dr. Rain. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. I think that was a really an eye-opener, especially to our parents who are on board. And I think a lot to think about. I have a lot of questions, a lot of things that I think you could see me quite animated. I was agreeing and saying no and things like that, because I mean, having 4 children now between the ages of 24 and 34. Yes, I've been through the hard times as well. And funnily enough, 2 of my children just turned around 2 days ago and said, you know, Mommy, my friends keep telling me that I'm very much like you. So I don't know whether that's positive or negative. That's the problem. Because sometimes I see them blow up and I'm saying, oh my gosh, is that what they mean? You know, things like that. Yes, so just a couple of questions or sort of like sharing that I would like to express myself. When you talk about parents, you yourself as having transformed and moved from being the what do they call it? You know, the mama who says it's me and listen to me and that's it.
Controlling one.
Yes, the controlling one. And when you learned and you progressed and you changed, how did your children react? Obviously, they reacted positively, but was there a point where they turned around and said, hey, Mom, why are you so different? Or, you are you the same mom that are you the same mom, or who has taken our mom away and given us this new person? How did they respond to this?
I would say initially, they definitely have doubts. They're like, I'm not sure. Is she up to something? What is going on? Why is she doing that? Right. So definitely there were doubts. And, again, so as parents, it's just kind of like how we talk about behavioral shaping. It's about consistency, right? I like to use the word behavioral shaping. This is from Dr. Shefali instead of discipline. Because we want to shape their behavior. Because discipline has a negative connotation to it, right? So it's like discipline, right? So, so it's about consistency. So, it's about consistently demonstrating to my kids, right? And so over time, I gained that trust from them. And yes, not too long ago, my eldest son, told me this. It's like, Mom, you're changing so fast. I feel like I have to catch up with you. What is going on, right? And I told him that, you don't need to. I said that, for me, I wish I've learned some of this stuff when I was younger, and I didn't. And now I'm really committed. I'm committed to creating a life, because for me, my outlook is, what's our purpose here? Our purpose is just, parents work really hard. Why? They work really hard so that they can do well, and ultimately so that they can provide, and then so they can provide for their kids so that the kids can be happy and healthy. Of course, we have a different, our definition of success too is really different. Like my definition of success is I want my children to do what they love, right? So that's ultimately what we are doing as parents, right? And I realized that a lot of stuff that I learned in my younger days didn't contribute to that. I wasn't teaching my kids to be happy, right? I wasn't healthy in many ways. I wasn't taking care of my emotional well-being. I wasn't taking care of my spiritual well-being. I wasn't even taking care of my social well-being. I was like, kids, everything. I started cutting off my time with my friends and all that. So I realized that I'm not a great model for my kids. So I started, I committed to it and I started doing it. And I can see how that's benefiting my kids now. My youngest one, who is 11, I'm really grateful. She's actually very self-reflective because of the things that I've been doing. And I share with them how reflective I am. And she is very reflective now too. Yeah. So hopefully that's answered your question.
Yes, well, I think a lot of parents do feel, as you said, that they don't place themselves first. We have parents who come to us and the first thing they want to talk about is their children. They don't want to tell us how they're feeling, what the frustrations are. It's first, what do I do to be able to transform my child or to have them to be what I want them to be. And I think in a parenting talk that I attended quite some time ago, what was very poignant was that the presenter said, look, it's not what you want your children to be and how you change them, but more in how you reflect on yourself and what you are doing that causes your children to react or respond. So it's always reflective, as in looking at yourself and seeing what you are doing right or what you are doing wrong, and then how to impact your children by what you placing yourself first. And you're right, a lot of parents don't place themselves first, especially the mothers. Yeah, it's the family, it's the husband, it's sometimes the animals, it's everything except themselves. And they are not giving themselves, they are not, I mean, in a way, they are not loving themselves enough. They don't realize their self-worth, which is really it should be priority. And then I think lots of things fall in place after that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about this, the parents who are listening. If you're doing that, you're teaching your children to do the same thing because they model, right? And then this is going to pass on to the next generation, and it doesn't stop, right? And then you're wondering why your kids are sacrificing and keep giving and they're exhausted and tired because they're learning from us. So that's something I've learned to stop to do now.
Yeah, that's very true. And I just want to ask this little question. I know it's probably not very, I mean, as you said, it's not very serious, but you know, you talked about bend the tree. which was very interesting, bend the tree. Because as you said, you should, sometimes you hug a tree, and I believe in Finland, it is something that's a norm. They hug the trees, but of course they're made fun of because they live so far away from each other, so they don't have very many friends. So the trees are there, so they hug the trees. And it is very therapeutic. And, you know, I can understand that, because when I took children on a trip to Finland, all they did was they ran to the trees and they hugged them, and, you know, they were very excited. So, in a different way, you say sometimes when you are frustrated, you scream, you shout, you dance, you kind of like get everything out. Have you ever kicked Ben, your tree, in frustration? Or is he a treasured, you know, figure there that, no, we treat you, we respect you, and no, we're not going to be mean to you? Just wondered.
No, we haven't. I'm grateful that, you know, I think over the many years of now really doing transformational work, so I'll give you a little backstory. Yeah. One of the emotions that is the hardest for me to be with is actually anger, because I grew up in an environment where I perceive anger as threatening and fearful, because I grew up in that environment. So I made anger wrong. It's not good. So it was an emotion that I would not allow myself to express most of the time. It's okay to be with sadness, but not okay to be with anger. And so guess what happens? Over the years, I stuff that anger in, right? Because we do that. Because emotion is energy emotion. So imagine if you're angry, but like, okay, wait, that's not a good thing. I can't do it. Better not do it. Put it away. And that's why, you know, I talk about explosion. That then yes. Over time you explode it, then you start packing again and it explodes. Mm-hmm. So anger was one of the hardest for me to deal with until I learned to really express it. So over the years, I learned to express anger that I catch myself in the moment, and also my past anger that I stuffed in. So I actually released a lot of my past anger. Mm-hmm. And because of the work that I've done now, I'm able to, even my body starts moving a little bit, I can feel the anger. I'm that sensitive to it now that I'm so aware that I do not react as much anymore. So I would say, if you take me maybe 8-9 years ago, if Ben was in front, is there, yeah, Ben would probably get kicked, you know, at that time. My anger that's coming, and yes. Then go express it when I need to.
Okay, yeah. So you address it immediately, so it doesn't become a big issue. Yes.
Yes. So I look. If let's say you're in a meeting, it's harder for you, right? So sometimes, let's say, you know, one thing that I teach people in my class, I say, put your emotion aside, not away. Right. Yeah. So meaning after you're done with the meeting, if you really can't get away, go back to the incident that caused that trigger. Like, you know, just think of the moment. I mean, even right now, if I say think of a moment when you're angry, you could think of a moment when you start feeling anger, correct? So think of that moment and then just allow your, you know, express. And during that time is the time where, you know, make sure there's no one around. It's safe and you're doing it in a healthy ways, right? Healthy meaning it's good for your health, not, you know, there are people do unhealthy where they drink and smoke. Those are unhealthy ways, right? Yeah. So healthy ways, then, you know, just move those energy out. And then once you move, you feel better, right? And of course, if you, during the meeting, if you could excuse yourself and ask yourself, you know, I've done that. I've asked people for, I need, like with my husband, we have agreements, you know, that, okay, you know what, I am really riled up right now. We need our time away. So we have an agreement. We both go away and then do what we need to do. Once we come down, then we can actually talk in a more mindful with our words and our actions. And that actually helps our relationship.
Yes, definitely. It doesn't, it's when you calm down and you talk, then you don't say things that you will regret. Yes, in a while, and then you can't, it's more difficult to undo. That's very, hard. You also mentioned parents, and it's good for parents to have routines. And yes, I really agree with you. And in one of the talks that I gave earlier on just children and parents and how they're managing during this lockdown period, one of the first thing that I brought up was routines also with children, because they need the routines, and they need to know when to do certain things. Otherwise, as we know, they go wild and decide that they can do anything whenever they want. And I think that causes disharmony in the family if the child doesn't know what is expected. Yeah.
Yeah, I think routine is important. I think, you know, as human being, because our mind likes structure in so many ways. So by giving, you know, satisfy that part of your mind, it's important, right? So routine helps with it. So yeah, so I think routine is really important. Of course, you know, one of the other things that I've learned also is to just embrace the moment, like I say, you know, being in the present. So there's sometimes that flow comes that you want to play, it's okay, right? But routine helps provide structure for kids.
Very much encouraged where people are asked to laugh, you know, like a laughing exercise. And if you find it very difficult, a lot of adults are very embarrassed to laugh, you know, in front of people. But when they get into it, then they become a lot more open, and you can actually feel the tension, you know, slowly, you know, very quickly, I would say, calm down. And I also believe not just play and laugh, but also being silly. Adults don't like being silly because they perceive that, it's not right because you're an adult. But I love being silly. I love being silly with my kids, even with other adults. As long as they're happy being silly with me, I don't see the harm.
Yeah, I think it's important. Again, this is some of the things that I had to shed, you know, because I have this whole belief system growing up, right? And I think, you know, we're expected to behave a certain way, right? And so, you know, it's not maybe appropriate, you know, so we are told. And so we carry some of this belief in our subconscious mind. So those are some of the things that I had to learn to let go and just say, it's okay, you know, it's okay to be silly and have fun. And the kids learn from us, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Someone said silly, not cool. Zach, yeah. No, it's very cool. It is very cool. I mean, I think the kids love their parents being silly, you know. It's like they're humans, you know. It's not like they're the parenting figure that has, you know, have to be revered and listened to all the time. You know, when parents are silly, it's like, oh, you know, you the tension is gone, you know. As long as they know that, you know, they can't go overboard. You know, there are lines, you know, like you don't speak to your parents in a way you would speak to your buddies, if you want to say, you know, you would show that form of respect, but that's minor, you know. But yeah, I think it does definitely improve the relationship. Yeah. I don't know whether we have a lot of comments in the chat box, but I'm not sure whether there are actually any questions. I noticed the comments coming in as you spoke. You know, people were commenting. So is there anything that anyone who is on the platform now like to bring forward any questions? Because I'm enjoying my talk with you, but there may be someone who's listening who might be saying, hey, you know, I have a question to ask, and I haven't, you know, no one's paid attention. Anyone who is Shuhada or anyone who is following the chat, is there anything that needs to be addressed?
Miss Pierce, I've noticed one question just now from Miss Mari, but I'm not sure if this is the questions or not. She asked, how long do we need to be in present in a day?
Yeah, okay, yes, I did see that question. Yeah, okay.
I think it's very individual from different people. So you know, you got to see where you're at. I would say that my experience is, you know, one thing I've learned, the mind will keep thinking, right? So, and thoughts will keep coming. I've learned to allow the thoughts to just get through. I don't get stuck, I get caught with my thoughts. One of the things that I've learned to practice. But being present, you got to look at what you need. I've worked with individuals who have actually very traumatic childhood, for example. I noticed that for some of those, they really need more time, right, to be with themselves, to be more, to practice being present longer, because that helps them. So it's really very individual, I would say. Really, each one of us has different background, different history, different experiences, right? And one thing I've learned also over the years, it gets easier. It gets easier. The more you practice, right, it does get easier to be in the present.
Yeah, we do tend to overthink a lot, don't we? As sometimes my kids will say, it hasn't happened, so why are you thinking it's going to happen? So think, don't anticipate what may not happen. Yeah, and I believe that it's been repeated over and over again. Be in the now, as you said, don't think about planning so much. Of course, we all have to plan, we need to know where we're going, but never wait for the perfect time, because there'll never be a perfect time. Yeah. We always say, oh no, we'll be able, like, oh yes, I have this beautiful cutlery set. I'll wait for the special moment. But the special moment is now. I mean, so what if it breaks? It's just a beautiful cutlery set. You're missing one piece. Life goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very important, right? And I think, if we look, like for me, I think I mentioned this earlier, I look at every parts of my life. There are moments that are challenging, and however, it's contributed to who I am today. And so really it's about being okay, right? So you really, like I said, it's just a mind. The mind wants to figure out, it's part of its task, right? Yes. So if you have thoughts that come into you and say, thank you for sharing, all right, thank you for your sharing, but just, practice being the present.
Yes, that's right. It is now. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of people who say, oh, I wish I had done this, I don't have the opportunity. And a very simple one, just telling people who you care for that you love them and that you appreciate them. It's very sad when you see people who are devastated when they say, oh, I should have gone to visit so-and-so, or I should have taken the trouble to pick up the call. I was too busy to pick up the call, and now I have missed the opportunity of maybe having spoken to a person who is not with us any longer. Yeah, the now is very important. A lot of people always think of the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we only have this moment. Like you mentioned, we truly none of us know when we're returning home, correct. Right? Yes. You don't know when that moment is. And it can be any moment, and therefore, we can only do things right now. Like this moment that I'm talking to you, I can do something about this moment. I can't do anything else the next, or the 1 second that passed, or the next second that's coming.
Yes, so. Correct. Yeah. You did speak about this program that you are running. I copied it, but I don't know where I wrote it. You run some sessions, correct? You run a session every week or month? Rain something, caring, sharing, or something like that. I can't remember where it is.
I if you're talking about the RainHeartWisdom show, it's an online show. Yeah, so now I've started, because of what's happening with COVID and the lockdown, I decided to share some of my teachings online. I actually just did one about parenting last week or the week before. And so it's every week we release 2 different videos. One is interview different experts, and then one is teachings from me. That's every Wednesday and Saturday. I have a YouTube channel. So we just started about 2 months ago. Because I couldn't run my in-person program. So I started thinking, how can I support people during this time? And that's how this channel was birthed. I do run in-person program. That's why I fly to Malaysia twice a year to run my programs. My programs are run in Canada, US, in Malaysia. Malaysia is the hub for Asia. And then I have another program that I run. That one I run in different countries every year because that's an opportunity for me to see a new country.
Yeah, that's lovely. And this channel that you run, it's just 2 videos. Do you respond to it? Do people get an opportunity to ask questions as you're running it? Is it live or is it just something that you put up and people can watch whenever they want to?
Yeah, so it's live on, they can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's called RainHeartWisdom. And they subscribe, then you get, if they click on the notification, then every week you get notification of the 2 new videos they're out. And then you can comment or ask questions. And then I will go in and respond to your question. Or there is a Facebook group that I created that you can join. There you can more directly ask me questions. So some of the videos that I've done is based on questions that people have asked me. So I was doing the video in response to their question. So actually the next 2 videos, they're coming in response to some questions that I've been asked.
Right, and actually the links, Zach has kindly put up the links on the chat. So I'm sure that we will share that. Yes, we will share that to parents who would be interested. Do we have any more questions? I could run on and it is getting late for you, so I don't want to keep you. Is there anything that anyone would like to comment on, or any other questions that I may have missed? Because it is just past 11 o'clock now by our time, which is 11 o'clock by your time, except that the sun is not shining on your side. The moon is up on your side.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, I still have my Malaysian blood, so it's quite late.
What time do you go to sleep actually? Then, may I ask?
Right now, we've been sleeping really late, 2 to 3 a.m.
Oh, wow.
But I do wake up a bit late. I just noticed that Anthony mentioned that train the mind to accept failures. Yeah. One of the things that I teach my kids is to celebrate mistakes. And we actually teach this throughout our program. So, mistakes are ways that we learn, right? Because without mistakes, we can't really learn as human beings. So, and one of the things that I've learned too growing up is a lot of us are afraid to make mistakes because we, my own experience, you're told wrong, or it's not okay, or maybe we feel embarrassed. But, now, what I teach people is you celebrate, because you know that when you're making mistakes, you are learning from it, right? Yes. So I really appreciate what you wrote, that it's important to train our mind, to accept that we've made mistakes and then learn from it.
Yeah. You did, you mentioned children, how they behave, and, when they get into scraps with each other. It's so common. You have a child who comes and says, oh, so-and-so doesn't want to friend me, and then 2 days later, after trying to deal with an issue, 2 days later, we see them arm in arm with each other and we say, hey, weren't those the 2 who just said that they couldn't stand each other and stuff like that? I believe that the children are very quick, they're at a growing stage. So they make friends, they don't make friends, I don't want to friend you, things like that. We're so used to things like that. How do you deal with parents who carry this thing on their shoulders? If their child comes home and says, oh, so-and-so doesn't want to speak to you. And okay, for me, I say, well, wait 3 or 4 days and let's see what happens. But the parent comes in, like, oh, so-and-so has been really nasty to my child. And I think they tend to take all this, which is not really their burden, but they are burdening themselves with what the children actually, in the end, they laugh about it, and then everyone feels kind of foolish in the end that they made such a big thing out of it, right? Can you say something about this?
Well, I think if it's really, if it's serious and there's bodily injury, of course, as parents, we need to interject, right? But when it comes to this, again, I would go back to what I share about how you want your kids to be independent, because at the end of the day, you want them to grow up as an independent, reliable, respectful, and healthy, happy individual, right?
Yes.
And so one way is not to keep saving them, because if you keep saving them, they're going to wait for you to save them, and they're never going to learn to be independent. They're going to be very dependent on you as parents. And that's, if you keep doing it, that's what you're going to train your child to be. And they're going to grow up thinking mommy's going to come save me. And they're not going to learn to deal with things like that. They're not going to learn to stand for themselves. They're not going to learn to be able to express themselves. I think as parents, our role is to, if they come and talk to us, is to acknowledge how they're feeling, not discount how they're feeling. Because very often, sometimes as parents, we want to jump in and fix, like you say, right?
Yes.
Let's go fix it now for them. But what they want is perhaps just for us to acknowledge and just understand what they are going through, you know. So I think it's so important as parents to just acknowledge, I get it, you know, that happened with your friend. Is there anything you need right now that, you know, what do you need from me right now? But not go fix it. Because if we fix it, we're saving them. We're not teaching them to be independent. And then they're not going to be a very thriving adult growing up.
Such an excellent reply. I'm going to steal this the next time I have a parent come in to say, yes, it's very true. Yes, our children feel that, you know, anything they turn to the parent who is going to fix it for them. Very true. Yes, and yes, they become so dependent. Yes, and they can't do things for themselves. They can't think for themselves. Yeah, they expect people to do the solving for them, or, you know, whatever it is. I mean, I've had a child many years ago who actually went abroad to study, and the next thing you knew, the child was back within 3 months. And when we asked the parent what happened, they said, oh, the child was really having a tough time being on their own because they didn't know how to work the washing machine. And was getting stressed out on how do I wash clothes and what are the buttons and things like that. I mean, we laugh, but it's true, you know. We don't believe that, yes, that's how protected they are and how they are, you know. Yes, the parents think that, you know, I have to give my child everything, but the one thing that they are not giving their child is the opportunity to grow and be independent.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, if we keep rescuing children, they're not going to learn to be resilient. And if they're not resilient, you know, when they hit, like you say, even a simple washing machine, if they can't deal with it, you know, they run home, right? But resilient, because as an adult, eventually they're going to go live their life. They need to know how to make a living, build relationship for themselves. And resilience is something that's really important. And again, if you keep saving your child, they won't know how to build resilience. They won't understand it and how to deal with things.
Yes, and we have one very good question from Ms. Shanti. How do you deal with parents or people who need to control and do not encourage individual growth? How do you deal with parents and people who need to control and do not encourage individual growth?
Okay, well, first of all, you know, it depends whether this parent is open to actually listen, right, to your advice. Because if they are not, it's very difficult, I think, to, and that's why the last thing that I said is, in order for to do something different, it starts with awareness and willingness. So being willing. So the parents need to be willing, right, to be open to what is possible or to even hear your advice. Of course, you know, again, you can share with them and get them to get clear what's the intention of what they're doing. You know, I think that parents, all parents have good intention. They want their children to do well and be successful and be happy and healthy, like I said. However, because of the ways they've learned, and it's very unconscious behavior, very automatic, and this comes from our belief system, they do the same thing over and over again. That's what I did. I was parenting my kids pretty much very similar to how I was parent, right? And so, you know, carrying that continuously, but if you can just address it and really ask I would use questions as a way, because instead of telling, people don't like to be told, right?
Correct.
So ask them questions, as it could be a way to make them think, and then maybe they're more willing that way. Is, what do you really want your children to gain? What do you want them to grow up to be? What do you think are ways they can get there? So when you start asking quality questions, they'll start thinking about it, and then they start reflecting, so that way may be a better opening way for them to start thinking about, okay, you know what, maybe that's working, by the questions that you ask. So I would say, go for that and see how they go, like I said. But if they're not willing, it's really hard. Right?
Yeah, I think questions are very interesting way to get to them, because it pushes the ball in their court for them to answer, rather than this is what you should do, this is what you should do, because they turn around and say, how do you know, and what do you know? Who makes you the expert, right? Yes, understood. Yes.
How would you know what I'm going through, right?
What exactly.
Tell me you don't know what am I dealing with, right? Yeah. So then you ask them, so what are you dealing with? So what's really going on? So I think so question them, and then with the intent that they get clear, and then with that clarity they get to see what's important to them. And if that it's important for their kids to be a thriving independent adult, then ask them, what do you think are some more fruitful ways to get them there, and what are some of the ways that you're doing may not be working.
And in addition to that, I think this will be our last, because I really don't want to be guilt-ridden that I've kept you. I mean, even though you're now going to start cooking with your children's supper, right? But I don't want to disturb you. It says heartbreaking to do, but sometimes we need to use tough love on kids. Now, this tough love perception, I do sometimes use it myself. I mean, I do say yes, tough love, but our children are very different. I mean, as you agree, before, when the father says stand up, we stand up. When the mother says do this, we do that. Nowadays, they're very questioning. They want to know, when you tell them to do something, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is why. Why do we have to do that? So the tough love, in a way, yes, but doesn't it have to come with a lot of talking, reasoning, letting them see the bigger picture? What do you think about this tough love perception?
Well, one of the things that I do with my kids is, so like my husband and I, we have agreements, I call them. So same with my kids, it's called agreements, right? And, so that's kind of like the rules in the home. I don't like to use the word rules again, because rules, again, has a bit of a negative connotation, just like the word discipline, right? So agreements. So we made agreements, and they're, we talk about the impact and consequences of when the agreements are broken, right? So this way, once again, the child is conscious of, okay, if they continue to do this, this is the impact and consequences of it. But we have agreed on it, right? And so since you've agreed on it, this is what we're going to be doing. So instead of using right, wrong, or I get that, tough love or firm love, I tend to use more, impact and consequences, and then they have agreed to it. So now they're going to learn through that and take responsibility for their actions and their words and their behavior, right? And then that's one great way to teach our children, is to be responsible for themselves, right? Because in the real world, that's what's going to happen. You're responsible for your communication. You're responsible for your behavior. If you drive too fast, the police are going to give you a ticket. And that's the consequences of it. And you've got to learn to bear with that. Yes, then you learn from it. Then, okay, what's my learning after that? Oh, now I make sure that I watch what's the speed limit here. I watch my speed limit on my car, right? I mean, this is a simple analogy, but that's how I like to teach my kids, coming more from. So then the ownership goes back to them, and this way I train them and I teach them to be more responsible adults.
I think your terminology is so positive, you know, you know, you actually do mean this, but you turn it around and you say agreement as opposing, so you're using all the positive terms, and I think that really makes a difference. And especially when you are trying to relay this to the children, when you're using these positive terms, it doesn't sound negative. You know, like this is the rule, you have to, I mean, yeah, it's perfect, you know, it really makes you think. Yeah, it's sometimes it's not what you want them to do, but what you say to them in order to relay that message, you know, that you will get it done, but they will think that they're doing it rather than, oh, I have to do it. But you kind of achieve the same thing, right? That's just the approach.
Yeah. So, you know, getting the agreement, right? So that they agree to it, and be very clear about spelling out your consequences to it, right? What are the consequences if you don't do it, or if the agreements are broken? Here are the consequences. So they, again, this is kind of back to managing the routine. So this is part of managing what they expect, right? So once you manage that, it's easier, you know, to work with them, with the kids. I know when my kids was growing up, I remember learning, like, younger kids you need to give them prep time before you're heading out of the house, right? So, you know, kind of that's the routine, right? You prep the kids. So we prep them with, here's the agreement, here's what's going to happen, here are the impact and consequences.
I find that in this day and age, because parents sometimes are so bogged down with work, with family commitments, etc., they tend to throw out. I don't know, for want of a better word, to put it like, if you don't do this, this is what will happen to you. It is a consequence, but it sounds more like a threat sometimes to me, right? But the thing is, 3/4 of the time they don't carry it out. And that is a big problem, because the kids will know, oh yeah, that's what mommy will say, but they'll never do it. You know?
Right, so the consistency.
Exactly, yes. I mean, whether it's because, oh, I don't have the time to do it, or, you know, but giving them consequences, you have to carry it out. Otherwise, it's pointless. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why consistency is so important now, to shape them, right? And kids are really, kids are intelligent. You know, Buckminster Fuller is a teacher that I follow, and I use a lot of his teaching in my program. He's a visionary. He's not here with us already, but he said that, you know, children are here to teach us, right? And so children are really brilliant and smart. And so if they know there's a way to get around it, they will figure it out.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we need to be one step ahead of them, because normally they are ahead of us. They kind of figure us out very quickly. Yes, they do.
Yeah, I think the key, again, you know, if you're having a real authentic relationship with your child, and that's where the communication can be open, it does take away a lot of this possible issues, you know. You know, if the parents, we make mistakes, it's important for us to own our mistakes and being willing to tell our kids that I made a mistake. And this is, again, kids always model, right? So they're learning from us. So having the authentic, honest, open relationship with your child will, you know, take away some of these issues, I do feel.
Yes, open relationship and honesty is very important, and to speak to them, and to speak to them on par, not condescendingly, because they, you know, they are smart cookies. They are these days, yeah. They are really smart, yeah.
They are very, very smart. You know, kids are very smart.
Yes, they are. It's been wonderful to have you with us in your evening, in our morning. I would really love to invite you on board. I think it's really good for parents to, this is the eye-opener for them. Those who are on board, I'm sure, will have lots to think about. And those who will be watching the recorded video will definitely think about things. So I'm hoping that we will be able to get some parents on board, either going on to your YouTube YouTube channel, or perhaps requesting that they have you again, which I would really be very happy to say yes, 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 and get Mr. John to arrange this. So, but yes, thank you so much for your time this evening. It was really insightful, and I think I've got 3 pages full of notes and things like that, and I'm put together and think about it when I do have to talk to parents, and even with my kids, I'm going to tell them, oh, guess what I learned today? They say, oh no, mommy. I said, no, it's nothing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I really had a lot of fun. I enjoy the time, your questions, and my time with every one of you. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me again and for inviting me. I do look forward, one of the ideas that when we were talking before the session, you talked about opportunity to communicate with the audience. One of the things that we started doing was we started doing some of our free complimentary workshop online now. So it's a 3-hour where if your parents or your community are interested, we could do that, and they can learn something about themselves, more specifically to their belief systems.
Okay. I will let Mr. John discuss that with you further.
Yeah, so we play games.
Yes.
So you'll be a fun, interactive session. Yes.
Oh,
so it's a
great.
playful session.
Okay, do we have to dress up?
No, but we'll be playing 4 games. So it'll be through games you get to learn a lot about yourself. That's one of my modalities that I use, is through games that you learn about yourself.
Do you have a restriction to the number of participants in order to be able to manage a session like this?
Restriction? No, if I know how many, then I probably need some of my team to come on, because I do have some team also locally in Malaysia as well, because I'm training some of them to teach my programs as well.
Wonderful.
So as I know how many, then we'll just need to know how many people can come on and support me.
Oh, great.
That session. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
A 3-hour session where, like I said, I use games as a way for you to learn about yourself. So you get to really, an opportunity to learn about you.
Okay, and with the time difference, now we're talking about time, because we can't expect you to be on from 10 to 1, though 10 to 1 for us is good. Would it probably be like, what is the time that you probably arrange it? I don't mind getting up at 6 in the morning for your 6 p.m. session, no issues with that, but what actually would be the 3-hour time slot that would suit both countries?
Actually 9 to 12 is okay. Like I say, I'm actually a night owl, so I'm good with night. I'm not a morning person, so I tend to sleep in really late. I do still get my 8 hours of sleep as well. Yeah, so I function better in the evening. So evenings work well for us.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sure John will keep in touch with you. But thank you so much again, once more, Dr. Rain. It was really a pleasure. It's an honor to have you on board. I've really had a good time this morning. I'm sure everyone in the audience has also had a good time. Have a good weekend. Yes? And hope to see you soon. Yes,
sorry,
John?
just one final question.
Of course.
Dr. Rain, do you work or corporate settings as well?
Yes, I do. We do. I do have programs that we do for corporate. Right now, I've trained up a couple of people that runs the corporate side program for me as well. Yes, we do. So same thing. The corporate side, we use games as a way, because I find I can stand up there and tell you all the PowerPoints. Half the time you don't remember, but when I play games, through games, you remember how you played and what you did. And then you can actually really understand what I'm sharing with you and some of the principles. And the key thing that we focus on is really, for me, for all the works that I've done, I've come to realize the key is really you got to know yourself really well. Because you want to create a life that works, you got to know where it doesn't work for you and where it works for you. What works for you, you're going to continue, right? If you don't know, you won't be able to nourish that. And what that doesn't work for you, if you don't know, you cannot do anything about it. Once you know, then you can actually do something about it. So we use game as a way for you to really understand yourself, and then shift from that place.
So the key word again, it's me first.
Me first.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people will say, oh, but that's being selfish, but it's not, because if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anyone else. Yeah?
You know, my one of my motto, which I think Mr. Karthik was talking about, I have an organization called We World Network, Women Entrepreneur World Network. And I talk about creating world peace through business, right? And what I found, in order to create world peace in the world, it starts with each one of us having inner peace. Because when we have inner peace, when we really know ourselves, when we start focusing on ourselves, loving ourselves, we won't react. And when we don't react, there's lesser war outside, right? Lesser confrontation, conflicts, and then we can really start creating a world that works for everyone.
Yeah.
But it really starts with each one of us.
Yes, correct. Yes. So I shall have a very good weekend. I shall plan my me time. Shall lock myself in my room. No.
Go hug a tree.
Yes, I shall go hug a tree. I have some outside my office, so this afternoon I should go hug a tree. Yeah. Thank you so much. Give my regards to Ben. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing Ben, the tree that you hug. I think he must be thriving with all the hugs that you give him. But it was really lovely, and we look forward to seeing you again and having you with us again. Yes?
Likewise. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yes, definitely. Okay, bye for now. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. It's Saturday morning. Some of you sleep in like you do, except that it's your evening, Dr. Rain. So I'm glad that some people got up and came on board, and I'm sure they have a lot to take back with them, a lot to keep them busy this weekend. Yes. Okay, we'll see you again, Dr. Rain. Okay.
Yes,
bye.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.